Wow, I can't thank you enough, Adam and Kyle, for just jumping in on this. It seems like last week, I know the three of us got the Buchla 288R on the same day. And it seems from, I'm only on YouTube and Instagram, but I'm guessing there's Facebook happening and some of the forums. It seems like a lot of people got this module in the last week.
I
And
haven't seen this much buzz on any module in a long time.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and as both Kyle and Adam, we've been talking, it's so deep, like any good Buchla module, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It's like the I feel like it's the Marf of delay units. There's just so many different ways to
Yeah,
go about it.
no kidding. And yeah, exactly. So many inputs and outputs, and what you can then do with all that.
Hmm.
And yeah. And I love that you all just jumped in and made demos, and it turns out that you know, we've covered little sections of still what's such a huge universe out there. So, yeah. Um, any first thoughts on when you first got this? What was, what did you gravitate toward or
Well, I
think
was
about?
honestly most excited about the delay aspects of it, and that's what I dove right into. It certainly is an intimidating module. I mean, it's funny, we you look at 100 series and you get into the 200, then 200E, and it's progressively it's more exotic. But at the same time, and I've never even used a 288 in any form before. I've only seen pictures of it and heard washing machine sounds in videos, which is cool. So I had no idea to expect. So, and honestly, it did take a few days to really, I was scratching my head. But then the more time you spent with it, it was like, okay, there's some logic here and it's coming out. And then as we're going to find out with each one of our patches, we all went up, going at it a different direction. It's amazing the depth that's possible. We keep saying that, but I'm truly amazed by this module, and I'm excited about what it's going to hold in the future as it gets new firmware updates and whatnot.
Yeah, awesome. And
Yeah, kind of the same here. I had a week-long stint with the verbose version when I went to EMS in Stockholm a year and a half ago, and the thing really won me over. It does, it can have its washing machine kind of settings, but I already could just see how deep it was. So I definitely was carving out a spot in my system of like that's gonna be it. And so when Roman's version popped up, and the idea of like, ooh, a little bit more delay time to work with, I quickly said, take my money.
that's right. Well, and for those that don't know the washing machine mode, I mean, I had a Verbose one way, way back, I think when they first came out. And washing machine it can get really gritty, distorty and noisy.
Yeah, but
That was
it's
sort,
still a
part
character
of it.
to it.
Yeah, it's part of its nature. And I guess with the Roman one, we sort of have the option. We can
Hmm.
go clean and clearer, crisper, and higher def, or we can flip into washing machine mode.
Well, playing other instruments and whatnot, I play a lot of slide guitar, and I've had students come along and, oh, this old blues, you have to use a dirty old slide and you have to play this guitar that's out of tune. It's like, well, you could do that with a really clean slide and a really clean guitar. And if you have that control, you can certainly get washing machine sounds. I say that in jest, it's obviously very cool. So I like that you can work backwards. You can't go the other way, obviously. So I appreciate the high fidelity of this module. In fact, it's, like I said, even if I only use it for a delay, nothing else, it's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And when I first got it, of course, I went straight into feedback.
Exactly.
Started loading up all the audio inputs, and it was like Forbidden Planet, here we come, and
Yeah.
then started sequencing the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Having it go through a 280, a 292, so the feedback would just pop in every now and then. And
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Yeah. Well, maybe we should drop into our demos. I'm going to lead off. This is, one thing I didn't, was looping available on the Verbos? I guess it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, we're talking about like uh granules of looping. I mean, in a way, I mean, there's not like, I think we looping is more of a newer term that we're using, and especially in the context of this. It doesn't say loop anywhere on it. It says
Right.
recirculate.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Um, so yeah, it's like I think some maybe are like coming out this like, oh, this is a Buchla module that loops. Like it does, but it was not kind of built with the intent of like make a phrase and loop that. It's
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and it was kind of like it's basically steal some of those delay taps or that are happening
Mhm.
and have those cycle. So it's kind of opened up a new world in a way with the
Totally.
longer times.
Well, and yeah, you can actually, especially with like the 246, the big mother
Hmm.
sequencer, or
Sure.
the 245, they have individual outputs. So you could be sequencing a melodic or
Mhm.
harmonic
Mhm.
sequence and turning loop points or buffer points on and off with all those individual pulse
Oh,
outs.
at will. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, whether
right.
you're using some sort of uncertainty source
Yep.
or yeah, exactly. You got so much real estate with the 246 and thereabouts, and you could have multiple styles of lengths of loops and then sequence them in time. You could have it pop in and out of record mode. I can't wait. I know that's
Okay. So
exactly.
that's where we can go. Here's a very simple me trying to get my brain around what this section is in the
Cool.
288R, and I'll see if I can share my screen properly. Okay, Kyle and Adam. I'm going to look at looping such as it is, and this is thanks to Adam. We spoke on Friday and he helped me understand this, and we both also approached it. We have more questions, but here are some interesting um, functions. Um, it's not the most intuitive looper. And it seems, though, to pair really well with the 216, because on the left hand side of the 216, we have three pulse outs, independent pulse outs. So I'm sending one to what's called next sound, and the next one to write, as in WRITE, and the last one to recirculate. Um, let's look at this. I have just a repeated sequence coming in on the audio, and so 0 is basically our monitor, our audio, and I'm using 4 tap and 8 tap out. This switch is set to cal, coming out of mix. Time multiplier is on time, times 1, and at noon. Let's see. We have start or store beginning, which it's switched to that. Store end is still somewhat of a mystery. Arm pulse in, that is set in the middle. And yeah, this is in the middle. I'm going to use short cycle. Um, and when I engage the next sound, it basically starts recording. You'll see this recirculate light go over to right, and it's fixed buffers. The only visual feedback you get is when we get to the end of the buffer, the LED from right will pop over to recirculate. So, and that's about 6 seconds. Let's watch that. Okay, so I'm going to start this. It'll start recording, and we've got the classic stopwatch. Here we go. Yeah, that's about 6 seconds there. On medium, it's about 11 seconds, and on full cycle, it's 21 seconds. And this is all set by those little dip switches on the lower right of the PCB. There are 4 dip switches. Currently, I've taken dip switch number 1 and put it up, which increases the buffer for looping. And I've left 2, 3, and 4 down, which gives us basically a high audio and 24-bit. So as long as there's audio coming into, in this case, A on the input mixer, we can go through this, we can fill up that buffer. Once again, we're filling up the buffer. We can't like stop it midway or have a loop point. So here we go. So we're just listening to the loop, and you can hear that little click. That's sort of a good loop, but you know, there's the click. Might be able to finesse that some MacGyver way. But at any rate, now that we have that, whatever comes into here, we can now punch in. I can hit right and recirculate quickly, and we'll have that going, and I'm going to go up to, let's go to here. So this increases the speed and the duration, so we're going to add this to that. So here we go. Doesn't seem to be an exact science. I think what happens if I punch in near the end of the buffer, it just clips a little. So there's no visual feedback for where we are in that buffer. You just have to start to feel it. Okay. So once you capture a loop, you can then, of course, add FM modulation to it and change its pitch. So let's see if we can grab this. Presentation. Hope that helps. Okay.
So cool.
Well, regardless of how it's working, if it's 100% or they're still in process of working up the firmware, kudos to you, Todd. It sounded beautiful and musical even as it was. So what can we say?
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, I got to carve out space for 216 now. Like that. What a good pairing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a 112 on the way. I'm excited about one of the, was it LA 76? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon. So I'm excited about doing something similar in that respect. So it'll be a good tool for that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I like how you got the stopwatch out and tracked down that actual timing. I hadn't done that yet, so it was good to know.
Yeah, it's maybe 5 and 5.
Yeah, 5 something.
You know, somewhere between 5 and 6, and
Yeah,
close enough.
10 and 11,
Yeah.
20, 21. But yeah, cool.
Have you noticed? I mean, we talked about the fidelity earlier, but it's extremely quiet. I'm really blown away with just that aspect of it. anytime we can add something to the system and not have any other anomalies, sonic anomalies, it's really nice. And I think I was reading on Mod Wiggler, I think it might have been Chris Muir, had mentioned offhand that he was had a hard time getting some of this signal up there, but I think that I still believe it's in a sufficient range right now. And when you hit it hard, it just definitely it has a nice musical sound, even when you do hit it hard with an extra preamp or something like that. I just wanted to throw that in there. So.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Well, and I guess the segue from mine into Kyle's is dip switches, uh, because
Oh my gosh.
I know
Mr. Dip Switch right here.
Yeah.
So here's my screen share. You start talking about dip switches. I'm guessing you're talking about these.
Yeah, I'm talking about kind of both sections. So for the
This
so
one
the
and this one, or this one and these?
actually all three in a way. So like you, I have on the that bottom right one flipped up during this segment, so it's we get the longer delay times. And that middle section that have kind of the 2 rows of 8, yeah, so that's for all when you're looking at the front panel, the kind of top right calibration presets, the 3 different presets. So so yeah, the first 8 that you slot up, because that goes from 10 milliseconds to 160 milliseconds
Are you saying
on
first
those.
here?
Yeah. So the first 8 you pop up, it'll kind of fill those time or those taps. And so I kind of tried to, come up with different patterns between the 3. And then the other side basically kind of shows you or gives you an option to preset the front panel with all 9 taps, the 0 plus the 8 actual delay taps, and then in and out of phase. So you just use a little screwdriver to up the volume on those trimmers.
Cool.
So
okay.
So yeah,
Thanks
a lot
for
of
the
little
orientation.
yeah, a lot of switching, and I did record a section kind of showing the back of it and doing all that, but I got way too long. I didn't want to bore you guys through it. So
Oh yeah.
Well, let's take a look.
Okay, so I'm going to explore the different dip switch settings that I've set up for the summed preset outputs and the calibration presets, which is basically setting up different delay tap divisions by 10 milliseconds. So I wanted to kind of do 2 stereo sets with the summed outputs. So I got A and B as kind of like a left and right pairing. Same with C and D. A and B is just going to be kind of a ping pong left and right. C and D is going to be longer ping pongs. It's going to have like 4 taps to the left and 4 taps to the right. So I just have this in regular calibration. So it's going to follow the milliseconds that are up top, and also adjusted with the time multiplier. I do have the dip switch on the back set up to push the delay times to its longer settings. That'd be more apt to show that off instead of the really short ones that you'd get in its original setting. So I'll turn that on. So this is A and B. So yeah, you can hear that initial hit comes out of both A and B. So like the 0 tap, if you will, and then it pings back and forth. Now let's hear the C and D outputs. So yeah, kind of cool to have 2 different options for stereo. Now I'm going to mess with the different presets that I set up, kind of set up different patterns. There are 16 dip switches on the back that allow you to, basically the first 8 that you select to turn on will fill up the the 8 taps after 0. So you could have like 10 milliseconds, 50 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds, 110 milliseconds. And so I kind of set up different patterns that I thought might be interesting to kind of shake up what's going on with these presets, because I can't adjust these preset outputs like I can the mixed output that uses the output mixer section, where I can bring in different taps and put them out of phase and whatnot. So this might serve some more variety within those presets. So we're going to go preset calibration A. So this is actually, I only have 6 of the taps turned on instead of 8. So you hear that initial hit, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's pretty cool. Let's go check out B now. Cool, we got C. Alright, it's going to reset right now. Cool. So that was just the ping pong back and forth between A and B. Now I'm going to select for C and D. I'll go back to A just to hear what that sounds like. Now we'll go B. I like that. Then we'll go C. Cool. So, obviously you can add in some feedback. What I found is kind of cool is actually using one of the mixed outputs as your secondary feedback input, because you can then use the sliders and switches on the panel to bring in different taps instead of just doing an individual tap from up top, which can provide you with a feedback option. You can kind of get maybe more interesting things out of that. Can switch it. So that's B for the preset up top, and that's still C and D. Let's hear what the ping pong A and B. So yeah, get pretty good variation. Obviously you can change the delay time and everything else. This is not really a full-fledged patch that I have, just one piece that I could implement in a bigger patch. But I am excited that I have all these different options in a stereo space. Obviously what is cool, I can also think of it, if I eventually get into quad, of setting up the different preset outputs to work in a quad space, so they can kind of circle around or ping pong, left, right, front and back. Yeah, cool options to think about for sure.
Exactly.
Wow. That's
yeah, Todd,
awesome.
I expect to hear a quad version of this sometime.
Yeah.
Performances.
I can dream, right? Just someone right on top there. Yeah.
There you go. Well, that is just so enlightening. Thank you so much, Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I getting in the back of that is, scares me. So it was great to see you go for it and help me understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've popped this thing in and out of the case like 15 times in the past week since I've had it, just to tinker around. So um, all the stuff was in, you could do that stuff in the original, but you had to wire it individually for everything. Yeah. So, there's only 2 prototypes of this thing made. And then Mark Verbos was doing his version. And so he kind of had some presets set up already. Like one would kind of cascade, but they're all kind of like mono. He didn't really set it up the stereo way that I'm tried it out, but you can have like the delay taps get longer as they go or get louder as they go, or the other way around. And so yeah, cool that we're able to easily tinker back there and not be set to it forever.
Right. That is so great. And this reminded me that the first thing I did when I got mine last week was actually take the tap delays along the top, right? The audio outs. And I went to, in a 207, right? So left channel is panned left, right. 1 is left and 6 is right, permanent, unless you CV them.
Right.
Then I took the other 4, so I took 6 delay outs and just
like
spread them. Just fan them out. Which right. Oh, and then actually I don't know if you could turn those switches on and off too, right? On the 207.
And of course, you've got all those face switches on the face panel of 288, which is yet again another level of audio control, very subtle. You can get into that mixing. That's incredible. A side note, Kyle, what was your opinion of some of there were some artifacts, when we switched settings on this thing. I got to say that they didn't bother me. In fact, they kind of sound cool. They didn't no screeches or scritches. It was like, it's interesting. So I don't know if that's something that firmware will change down the road or not. But honestly, at this point in time, even as it is, it's once again, non-harsh tones. I'm digging it.
The Verbos one kind of had similar flavors in the way, like the thing would kind of just maybe get ahead of itself sometimes, where it just kind of would freak out and get real loud and crash. And this thing's a little bit more stable, but yeah, that was kind of one of the differences, kind of the artifacts, and also just sweeping the time knob, because I think you guys are both familiar with like the 277 delay.
I love it.
I love that thing, and it's great, but it doesn't have the most, like, the smoothest kind of transitions when you're
it's definitely incremental. You hear the zippering going on without it.
So there's a little bit in this too, but it's not as dense as the last one, or at least what I've experimented with. So so far so good.
And really great job with the patch. It's a simple patch. It sounded great for as simple as it was, but we could actually understand what was happening on the looper the way you presented it. Very good. I apologize with the delay, not the looper, with the presets.
I decided to go pretty basic, just to, because sometimes you get into these thick of demos and you got 16 sounds going on, but it's like, just listen to that one part,
and they're like, what are you talking about?
I know. God forbid
this
this shows up in mono or something like that, and it's gonna sink us all.
Cool. Well, let's move on to Adam. And what I love is Adam. Another thing that I haven't quite sussed out on the good old faceplate here is I'm always using time, but Adam delved into pitch. So unless there's any other words, I'll try to screen share this.
I'm excited.
wanted to focus specifically on some delay sounds. And one that I really liked is using the delay when it's set to pitch as opposed to time, which allows for some micro pitch tuning. It's interesting sounding. For example, I've got a 258 oscillator going into a low pass gate, then feeding the 288, and it sounds like this. By the way, rather than me reaching in front, I've just got a lot of the patch points patched out again to the 254, so it allows easy control. So I'm going to open a gate. You can hear the oscillator. Now what happens is, as you turn the pitch here, you hear the original oscillator, and now you're hearing first tap. There's no feedback, ignore this right now. You can make it even louder, wider, excuse me. So it sounds like a detuned oscillator. It's just the 250E tuned to a scale. In fact, it was this section right here. And then I chose those notes out of using a sample and hold in which I patched. I'll talk about that in another video sometime. So when you run the patch, you get this. So it's just a single oscillator, remember? But we're using pitch mode and getting a micro pitch sound. Now, then I put it back into a nearly unison sound. Took a tap out, which we're not listening to in the main mix, and I put it back into the 292 so I could put it back into the module again and get a feedback like this. Of course, when I made the video, once again, rather than reaching up here, I used the 254 to achieve the same thing. So another aspect of it was that I had the clock that was creating the sample and hold, which in turn is choosing the stages, is also firing into another 281 channel into the gates, and it sounds like this. So I've got a master control of the original signal, which is really nice. What's really cool is when you get that feedback sound, and then gate it. You can do some micro pitch. Anyway, there's so many different things you can do with the 288, and I've just been enjoying the general tone. You can slam these input mixers, and they don't really distort in a bad way. They sound fantastic, actually. Settings on the panel real quick before I forget. We've got it on all sounds. We're listening to tap 1, and I'm monitoring tap 4, like I said, and created a feedback loop back into the module so I can get that nice feedback sound. And we're using the mixed out, and I'm not using any presets today. I'm just using the panel controls, and once again, that's on pitch control.
Oh, cool.
So certainly one thing I noticed is to think that it was so herky-jerky, I should put a stationary camera next time, because I get all excited and I talk with my hands, man, when I get into it. But, well, it was certainly exciting. My goal when I got it was, I mean, even if I hadn't seen your videos, which I didn't watch until after we all did one on our own, I knew the module itself was immediately could take you into deep space or noise territory if you wanted to. So I thought, well, I want to find something that's subtle, that's usable. And I admit I probably built up the patch bigger than I had planned, but I just really like the sound of that extra oscillator sound, that doubling sound. And it's not perfect. It's hard to hear probably in the Zoom meeting. It's got some artifacts when you separate it. You can almost hear that buffer loop in its own right, even in that short amount of time. But it's very musically usable, and I can't wait to work with it some more.
Well, and it sounds great, and I just loved all the variations you did, and again, how watching you barely turn a knob and hearing changes, sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic, but just not a lot of knob changing. Again, that's so Buchla-esque in my work, in my understanding is.
Just made to do that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I was happy to hear that you flipped it over to pitch, because I hadn't really, like, I had done it a couple times, like there's so much of this thing. It's like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. Let me come back to this. But then it kind of got me thinking. You mentioned kind of like that buffer. There's some kind of pretty consistent like pop
Yeah.
sometimes, or kind of click, right, that you've heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What I think, and what the verbose version, the original version, had, so flipping it over to pitch, I think there's like a ramp oscillator, like inside the thing, that is moving the time internally, which kind of gives you that kind of that separated flange type thing. And so yeah, you got me inspired to start messing around with that today, because I don't know if you guys, there's the whole all the taps, you can put things out of phase. So I ran like from an oscillator into 292 going into the 288, and then ran just a direct signal from the 292 into the mixer, both going to the mixer. And so I put one out of phase and one is just direct, and it cancels each other out. So then putting all those taps into out of phase with both those things up, you get these really weird flangey kind of hollowed out sounds. So like, it was very inspiring to see yours. And just another, it's like, it's subtle for how big it is, but it's like, well, there's nothing else in my system that does that. It's so cool.
I would say that about all of the patches we tried today, and each of these ideas that I'm learning from you are definitely something I will be taking my module out tonight. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I just want to leave it alone until we had our little visit and chat. So, oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining me on this little escapade, and it's very fruitful for me. I mean, everything, can't wait to keep going down this rabbit hole. And
thanks so much for setting it up. I was curious, is there now like, or is there anything that's like, that you haven't delved into it yet, but, or like, there's still some things, like I think you mentioned like the end storage button or switch.
Well, there's that. Not sure about that. And Adam realized this weekend that those pulse outs, which I've noticed the LEDs are just really, really faint. If you, Adam, you put it through a 257 and boosted it. So
I wanted to see if it was just something that wasn't enacted yet, or no, there's something coming out. So he had to put it through. I put it through 257 to boost it. And I think, Kyle, you had some other videos that you had posted where you did the same thing. Is that my thinking right? So it definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, I was, because that was a big hope, is that you can get some sort of percussive loop going from that, and use the end of cycle out to start clocking a sequence in time, and have that be kind of your clock in the beginning of a patch. So I was excited, because I think you did it first, or maybe we did kind of at the same time, of like,
we all did.
Boosted that offset through a CV processor, like those taps or the pulses.
It'll be nice when it's all self-contained, but at least it was something that was at least something to test. So I was happy about that. I mean, think about it. I believe, we've all got 230s in our system, whether the 230Es or 230 reproductions, but I mean, I can't wait to explore just the tap outs, the audio tap, the teeny jacks out, and create tap delays and whatnot, or excuse me, pulse delays and whatnot based on sounds. Like I said, even with a buffer of sounds that in the looper that we don't think of it, like Kyle, you said, as a traditional looper, it certainly is something that that lends itself to new exploration that we might not have thought of. And that's what I always appreciate about any Buchla module, even though it's like, it's a little bit squirrely right now. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
there's that too, for sure.
Wow. Well, thanks all. I really, really appreciate that. Before we sign off, just want to see, you know, well, we'll do some product placement here. Here's Kyle's album.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And here's Adam's album, The Blues Guitar. Check it out.
Nice.
And announcement. Let's see, coming out in August. Last year, I curated a Buchla cassette called Buchla Now, which they only ran 300 and they sold out in one day. And so there's a second edition of that coming out in August. And I'm really excited about that. It's like, you know, Suzanne Shawnee, Steve H., Caitlin Aurelia Smith, Marcia Bassett, Hans Tommen, Dan Deacon, Jonathan Fatosi, me. I hope I'm not leaving anybody out there. But, yeah. And what do you guys have going on, like coming up next? I guess you have a podcast coming, Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I got to figure out what that's going to be this month. But yeah, got the Source of Uncertainty podcast. It's coming. Need a little bit more time, but yeah, I'm sure we'll dig into that. But yeah, we just had the guys from the MEMS project on the last episode and got to dig into the 264 quad sample and hold with its polyphonic adapter, and I was very smitten over that module to
I
be
had
able to.
You see,
being able to plink around on a 218 and get 4 notes out of it and stuff. It was fun. It was a good time. So yeah, more of the podcast. Looking forward to I think modular on the spot and stuff is going to start happening again. So I'm just looking forward to going out and living some life to get kind of inspired outside of this 100 square foot room, and then bring those experiences back in here and work on some more music.
Agreed. Well, I wish I had a lot more on deck to share right now. It's kind of, I'm in a state of flux right now. I'm kind of new to Instagram. I've been enjoying that realm and reconnecting with a lot of electronic friends. But right now, as far as, and I took a break from building, I was building some modules for a while and took a month or two off just to kind of make some music on my own. And I had to get my fingers back in line for some shows coming up. And it's probably not for this audience, but on July 7th, I've got a really neat live stream playing a solo set for the Cascade Blues Association out of Portland, Oregon. And, there'll be all sorts of multi-cameras. And so I had to get my fingers back in order for that. And then the summer actually looked really good for some shows. But I'm just trying to figure out a balance between expressing myself through electronic music and as well as the acoustic guitar, because I just love it all. I mean, I could spend 24 hours a day with any one aspect of that. And it's just been so fun to network and hear other great works that people like you, both of you, and so many other people are into. It's just fun. I'm just excited. More on the horizon.
Excellent. And for me, I've just this Friday, let's see, is it the 18th? Yeah, June 18th, Portland, Phoenix. They both start with a P. Phoenix Synth Fest is running 2 nights. I'll be on, I think, 5:45 Pacific time on Friday, and then Saturday I'm performing live at the Tank in Rangeley, Colorado, which is this huge old water tank, 7 stories high with 40 seconds of natural reverb. So
whoa,
that's incredible. I'm assuming that they'll be streamed, but as well, it would be great to get some good audio from the Tank for sure. Please share it.
yeah. The Tank is not going to stream. I just found that out, but they have a huge, really state-of-the-art recording control room outside the Tank. So there'll be a great recording that'll go up on their site later.
that's incredible.
Cool.
All right. Well, good luck with the editing.
Thank you. Great.
Hopefully there's some cool stuff there, and I appreciate bouncing the ideas, and thanks for bringing me into the fold. It's been really nice. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you
Yeah, thanks for having
both,
me.
and have a good evening.
Yep. See you guys later. Take it easy.
Ciao.